it's Steph with Tiny's Garden. Today we are going to do a mini dahlia review and talk about digging and storing dahlias. Now this is my first year digging and storing, so it's an experimental year, but I'm looking forward to the challenge and seeing what methods work best for me. The dahlias that did best for me last year for 2021 mainly were in pots, and I'll link that video down below to show you how I did that. But by far that was my best experience with dahlias this year. We live in a woodland area, so there's not a lot of spots with full sun. The other spots that did well were in mostly sun or a little bit of shade, and the ones that didn't do great were in more shade. The varieties that I will for sure be digging up and saving from the ground are PG, Checkers, Wildcat, Flip Flop, and one from the Red Mix that I got from Eden's Brothers. Secondly, the ones in pots, I will for sure be digging all of those because they did beautiful. They include the varieties Take Off, one from the Red Mix, Shadow Cat, Sylvia, Bodacious, Breakout, Picasso, Tartan, and Bold Accent. And I do not have plastic plant labels, so I'm just using little seed packets, and I'll fit that on the edge of the tubers. Speaking of which, these aren't potatoes. These are tubers, so this is what they look like dug out of the ground. I did these yesterday to get a head start. They've been sitting out to dry for 24 hours. Now I'm gonna do the rest of them outside. So I will take my Velcro pruners and a pitchfork to do the digging. Mainly what I'm gonna do is cut the stalk down about 4 to 6 inches so that I have a handle to lift it up. Use the pitchfork about a foot away from the base of the plant so that I'm less likely to pierce a tuber. If I pierce a tuber, it's not gonna come back next year. So pitchfork is better than a shovel. After I show you how I'm digging them up, I will come back and show you how I'm going to dig and store them. I highly recommend the Discovering Dahlias book by Erin Benzakein. Has been completely invaluable to me. The ones that I don't dig up are mainly gonna be in those shaded areas. If you live in a climate where it's a zone 8A or higher, you can leave dahlias in the ground and they'll come back. We're in a zone 5B, the Chicago area, and so they're not gonna come back here. I'll just leave them in the ground and they'll decompose. Nothing hurt or lost there. Besides that they didn't work. Timing-wise for digging up dahlias, after your first hard frost, it's best to wait about 10 to 14 days so that those tubers can really cure in the ground. I have heard that it's likely they will not store as well if you dig them up immediately after that first hard frost, but there's a happy medium. You don't want to wait till you get really cold and it's been too far after the first frost or they'll shrink and die. I'm at a happy medium. Today's November 11th and it did start to snow today. So it's time for me to go out and get those dahlias up. So let's get some warm clothes on and go get these dug up.
We're all set, here we go. Digging dahlias in the snow. We're gonna start right back here by the greenhouse.
First step, cutting the stems about 4 inches.
I'll just put the old stalks on the compost pile and save the stakes.
Now I'm coming in and digging up around the base of the tuber, making sure I leave at least 6 inches, about a foot away ideally, from the tubers so that I don't pierce them. You want them to lift out fairly easily, so if you're struggling, you know you need to dig up and loosen the soil more. Once you're able to, lift those tubers up and out of the soil. Next, you want to try and get as much of the soil off of the tuber as you're able without being too rough handling it, otherwise you may break some necks or tubers. On a different one, however, I didn't have as good of luck.
Where are my tubers? Here we go.
Usually tubers grow and multiply in the ground. However, this one is just a single tuber.
I don't know if that one's gonna work. We'll see if I can find an eye on it later. We'll see if we have anything else in here.
Again, don't forget to label your tubers so you don't get them mixed up as you're digging them out of the ground.
Here we go! Yay! This one definitely grew some more.
Remember, you're going to have successes and failures, but don't let that keep you from digging in the dirt.
Okay, loaded up those. We're gonna do the pots now. Here we go. I know this is hard work, but it's also really satisfying, getting after those tubers in the ground.
Now because these guys are in pots, I'm just gonna loosen the soil around the plant a little bit, and it should come up fairly easily, I'm thinking. Woohoo! So easy! I can tell I'm gonna be doing dahlias in pots for many, many years. So easy to take that out, and the soil just falls off so much more nicely than our native really heavy clay soil, because it's potting soil, so it's a little lighter. Success! At this point, I think I can just loosen with my hands on these potted ones, honestly. Ooh, am I gonna run into trouble because I didn't use the recommended 16-inch diameter pot? We'll see. Oh, shoot. Uh-oh. Don't worry. Don't worry. Experimental year, remember? Let's try this. I'm being super delicate. So here's what this is looking like. Clearly this must be one of the drawbacks of growing in a pot that's not at least 16 inches in diameter. This one is 9, I believe. And you can see the tubers are pretty close together and tight, so it's not as easy to get them out. But we will figure it out. We're moving! Woo-hoo-hoo! Oh my gosh, I love it. Digging dahlias out of pots in the snow. Even pots that are probably too small. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat. These were stunning. Might I mention, because I got these in the pots so late, there were 2 in here, so I won't be doing that again. This one over here is clearly bigger than this one. So if I'm breaking anything, even though tuber size really doesn't matter, as long as it has a neck and an eye in the body. But I only had 1 dahlia out of this, and I'm betting it's from this bigger stalk. Here they're coming apart. Woohoo! My neighbors probably think I'm crazy. Success. So it's really coming down now with the snow. So I'm gonna breeze through these last about 7 that I have to do. Yep, really snowing now. Really snowing. Can you still see me? Look at these roots! Great new growth, several tubers. I'll take that. Okay, last 2 out back here. I think I'm gonna be estate sailing and garage sailing for more 16-inch pots. I love it. 3 left to do in front, and then we're spraying them off. Looking good, babes. Looking good. My hands are freezing. I think I'm gonna change out gloves. Are we a little red? Yeah, a little bit. Let's do it. This one was one of them that was in a little bit of a shade, but afternoon sun did awesome. Tiny but mighty. Tiny's garden. Oh my gosh. Look at these guys down there. Crazy. Oh, it just broke my pot. Casualty. Okay, next step. Come over to the hose, and using either a brass nozzle or a jet stream, I'm going to get most of the dirt off that I have on the tubers so that I can let them dry out and then divide them. Definitely getting a waterproof rain suit next year for this. Okay, so I'm going to take my tuber here, turn it to jet mode, and spray that excess soil off. I'm also aiming to get right into those spaces that are at the crown of the plant where the dirt can get lodged between those tubers. That looks pretty good, my friends. Waterproof gloves are a must, my friends. My impromptu labels definitely didn't really work well. Oh, I can read that one. That's good. Last one. Last one. Why do you keep switching
a shower jet. That's all. Get a rain suit. Okay, now I'm going to take these to a place where I can store them to dry for 24 hours, which for me is going to be in my garage. So not a place that is freezing, not a place that's too warm. Did I say get waterproof gloves? Lessons learned. So I'm just going to start putting them around my lawnmower because that's the place that I can set them right now because we still have a big construction dumpster in here, and that should be fine to let them dry. Spread out in different places on the lawnmower, improvising. We do what we have to do. I'm going to get cleaned up, and then we'll go through the ones that I've already let dry out for 24 hours. Should I go to the grocery store like this? My leggings are soaked too. Oh boy. Okay, all cleaned up. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and divide these tubers. So the three components we're looking for that each of these tubers has an eye. So the eye is going to be above the neck. It can be really difficult to see, but sometimes they're swollen. So it's a little easier, but you're looking for that little point that they call an eye. Next, you're looking for the neck. So the neck looks like a neck. It's joining the eye and what we call the body of the tuber, which is the last part. And the body of the tuber needs to be intact with no holes or gouges. Without those three things intact, the dahlia is not going to grow. Now we're going to divide a real stalk that has been dried for at least 24 hours. So I'm going to come through and cut this in half, divide the crown. The crown is the section that all these necks and eyes are connected to, and then figure out which tubers are viable and which tubers are not. You can see how that one's broken there and that one was gouged. Those are coming off.
Time to divide using our needle nose shears, coming in and cutting that stalk. I'm going to come in and clean the tuber up, taking off any tubers with broken necks and cleaning up any root shoots that are long and lengthy off the bottom of the tuber. I'm also discarding any tubers that have been damaged or pierced during the digging out process. Here's an example of a broken neck. Take that out. That won't grow. Now I'm going to divide the crown into more manageable parts and ensure that each tuber has at least one eye. Here's the best example I found of an eye. Again, it looks like a little raised or swollen circle. Here's a close-up of a single viable tuber, ensuring that it has an eye, which it has, searching for any dents or pierces within the body, and then cutting off the root shoots at the bottom and around the tuber. I'm also double checking that the neck is sturdy, so we have a viable tuber. Now the next step is going to be to take your viable tubers and label them with a garden marker. Depending on how you're storing your tubers, you don't necessarily have to label each specific tuber if you're dividing them later, but for me, I'm going to go ahead and label each one now. So for your reference, out of the three varieties I just divided, I have saved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tubers. So be picky, because the more you put in that could possibly rot would spoil the lot. That's my discard pile. Again, I'm waiting at least 24 hours for these to dry, and if they still feel a little wet, which mine actually do, leave them out a little longer, but no more than a few days because they may start to shrivel up after that. I'm still going to show you how I'm planning on storing these right now. The method I'm going to be using this year is going to be in plastic bins with vermiculite. So first I'm going to drill 3 little holes in the top of this container so that there's ventilation and the tubers are less likely to rot. I've already done one here, so I'm going to come in the middle. One more over here. Now that I got my holes drilled in on the lid, I'm going to come in with my vermiculite, which is great because I can reuse it next year too. I'm simply going to come in and layer about 1 to 2 inches of vermiculite on the bottom of the bin. Place those dahlias lightly on this first layer of vermiculite, but making sure that they're not touching, so if one rots, it doesn't transfer to the other.
Now I'll come in and put another inch or two of vermiculite over the top of these and add the next layer of tubers on top, like making lasagna.
All nice and covered there.
Next layer going in, then come in again with your 1 to 2 inch layer of vermiculite and repeat the pattern until you close the top. Now once I've layered all the way to the top and have put the lid on, I'll place it in a cool place between 40 and 50 degrees. So the coldest corner of a basement or an unheated garage or a garage that has a little space heater around it, really searching for that 40 to 50, maybe 55 degree point. And that's it. Easy as that. It is a lot of work. And of course, there's going to be hiccups along the way. I learned a ton just from doing this for the first time today. And I hope you learned something from it as well. Again, I try and show everything, whether it's silly or a little mistake or a really good job, because if I can do it and have successes and have failures, I'm hoping it encourages everyone to try and deal with whatever comes up. So please comment below and let me know how you're storing your dahlia tubers. I'd love to hear your ideas and what works really well for you. Also, please like and subscribe to our channel to follow us along here as we create our dream property at our home and for all things gardening.